Hi everybody, I'm going to talk to you about William Blake today. So let me get my presentation rolling. So William Blake, he's the last poet that we will study during this time period, the Restoration time period. He lived from 1757 until 1827. I have a little note there. He's probably my favorite poet that we will study throughout the course of this class. He's kind of a literary genius, I would say. So some background. I like to always give you background, on the authors. Some people say that he was mad, he was crazy. Probably he was more of a genius, kind of erred on the genius scale. But he was like a revolutionary, so he would write things that were kind of against the norm or against traditional thinking. And then he was also a mystic, and a mystic is somebody who would have religious experiences or religious visions. And he said one of the things that he told people was that he had conversations with God and with angels regularly, like they were people that he could just see. So he was considered a mystic for this reason. His educational background, moving through that. His father was poor. He was a poor tradesman. So William Blake didn't have a lot of formal education. He was educated at home. His father would supply him with books, lots and lots of books and paintings for him to study. And then at the age of 10, didn't mean to do that, guys. At the age of 10, he started painting and was a pretty gifted painter. He went on and apprenticed to be an engraver, which was a career that he would a trade that would support him. So he became an engraver first, and then he started writing some poetry after he was an engraver, after he had done quite a bit of engraving. He illustrated for several other poets, for Milton's Paradise Lost and for Dante's Divine Comedy. He had illustrated different versions of those. So he was making a living as an engraver. And then he started to write poetry. And one of the things that he said as he started writing poetry, he said, without contraries, so without opposites, there is no progression. So without some friction, we don't make progress, he thought. His two books of poetry that he wrote, one of them was Songs of Innocence. That was the first one. And then his answer to Songs of Innocence was Songs of Experience. And those were his two works. When he wrote them, critics did not receive them very well. People didn't like them, actually. They thought it just wasn't very appealing, and probably 50 years later, that's when he was dead, that's when he definitely received the best or the most response, or people liked him at that point. I've got some of the different poems that we're going to look at. This is the cover that he engraved, actually, Songs of Innocence. And this is the introduction poem to Songs of Innocence. I'm going to read it to you. I'm going to point out some things that I want you to know. And we'll go from there. Hold on just a second. Okay, so reading this poem, Songs of Innocence. This was the first poem in the book. I'm just going to point some things out to you, and we'll go through it together. So, piping down the valleys wild, piping songs of pleasant glee, on a cloud I saw a child, and laughing he said to me, "Pipe a song about a lamb." So I piped with merry cheer. Piper piped that song again, so I piped, he wept to hear. Drop thy pipe, thy happy pipe, sing thy songs of happy cheer. So I sung the same again, while he wept with joy to hear. Piper, sit thee down and write in a book that all may read. So he vanished from my sight, and I plucked a hollow reed. And I made a rural pen, and I stained the water clear, and I wrote my happy songs every child may joy to hear. So in this poem, piping, when you hear piping, he's talking about, he's playing like a flute or a recorder or something like that. So piping down the valleys wild, piping songs of pleasant glee. He's very happy. The tone is very joyful. And as he's piping, as he's going down the valley, he sees this child sitting on a cloud. Sorry. And the child says to him, he's laughing, and he says to me, hey, pipe a song about a lamb. And we get the capital L there. So the lamb is going to symbolize something, not just a lamb, but probably something he's personifying. So I piped with merry cheer. And then the child says to him, Piper, pipe that song again. So then he pipes again, and the child weeps. It's so good. It's so moving. And then the child says, drop your pipe, your happy pipe, and sing your songs of happy cheer. So then he sings them, and the child is weeping with joy. And then the child says, Piper, sit down and write in a book that everybody may read. And he vanishes. And so William Blake plucks a hollow reed, plucks it from whatever, the water that was right by him, and he makes a pen, and he stains the water, and he starts writing songs of innocence. And we see this lamb here, so we know he's going to say something about a lamb. We just don't know what. There's going to be symbolism. So it's a very easy to read poem. It has a nice rhyme scheme. It moves very quickly, happy, light tone. And then once we get into it, he has the lamb. So we know that the lamb was coming for the last poem. So I'm going to read this one too, and we'll kind of talk about what he's doing with this one. So he writes this. He asks a question. Little lamb, who made thee? Dost thou know who made thee? Gave thee life and bid thee feed by thy stream and o'er the mead. Gave thee clothing of delight, softest clothing, woolly bright. Gave thee such a tender voice, making all the vales rejoice. Little lamb, who made thee? Dost thou know who made thee? Little lamb, I'll tell thee. Little lamb, I'll tell thee. He is called by thy name, for he calls himself a lamb. He is meek and he is mild. He became a little child. I a child and thou a lamb. We are called by his name. Little lamb, God bless thee. Little lamb, God bless thee. So first he's asking the lamb, who made you? Who clothed you? Who gave you all of these good qualities, that you have a tender voice, and who feeds you? And then he says again, who made you? And then he says, I'll tell you who made you. He is called by thy name, for he calls himself a lamb. So we see this symbolism there. He's talking about the biblical, a biblical name sometimes used for Christ, when Christ is called a lamb. And then he describes Christ's characteristics, meek, mild. He became a little child. And then he answers his question, little lamb, God bless thee. Little lamb, God bless thee. So I want you to think about what is the lamb, the first lamb, probably symbolizing? I have read it always that he's saying, innocence, who made you? Do you know who made you? He's talking about innocence and goodness. Who made you? That's his question in this poem. And then he juxtaposes it in the book Songs of Experience, when this is probably my favorite poem of all time. He writes the tiger, and he spells it that way because he wanted some significance. I'm going to read this one through, and then we'll just talk a little bit about what's going on in this poem. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? What the hammer, what the chain? In what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil, what dread grasp dare its deadly terrors clasp? And when the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who made the lamb make thee? Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry? So at the beginning, let's go to the first stanza here. He says, the tiger is burning bright, right? In the forest of the night, we have darkness. So it's a different tone from the lamb. And he says, what immortal hand or eye could frame your fearful symmetry? He wants symmetry there for his rhyme scheme, but who created the tiger? Where did the tiger come from? He's asking. In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? So something fiery and evil in the tiger. On what wings dare he aspire? And then he says, like, whose hand would seize the fire to make this terrible thing? What shoulder, what art could twist the sinews, the muscles of the tiger's heart? Like, where did this tiger come from? And who could make something so evil? And then he talks about the dread hand and the dread feet. And when he talks about the hammer, he's talking about an anvil, like where you pound something out and create it. A blacksmith would do this, like what hammer and chain, and then in what furnace was the brain created? Like this tiger was created in almost a fiery furnace. And he says, when the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, like the stars were very sad when they saw the tiger. And then he says, did he smile after he created the tiger? Did the same person who created the lamb, Innocence, make the tiger? So then if you think about it that way, what is the tiger symbolizing? I would say it's symbolizing evil. And he says, did the same person who made good and innocence make evil? And that's his question in this poem. So I hope that you enjoy reading the other poems that I have for you on Classroom with William Blake. He's a fantastic poet. Thanks. Bye.